When your fuel lines rust out, trouble in paradise. Nothing worse than going out to your car and you smell fuel and you wonder, is that me? And you look down and there's gas all over the place. In this video, we're going to go through the process on how to fix these fuel lines. We'll show you which materials to use to make it a lot easier, and how to get everything all prepped up so it goes back together, and goes back together and seals so it holds pressure. Then you'll be able to get in that car and drive with confidence. Then I can assure you, without fuel leaking everywhere, you're going to get a lot better gas mileage. Okay, well, let's go ahead and start showing you some of the details. Usually finding a leak like this is pretty easy. Because these were rusted so bad, there were about 4 leaks in this line. Look how this stuff just crumbles. We even found leaks in the nylon gas line. This usually holds up a lot better than the steel gas line. So with the car running, you want to check everything carefully. Another thing that I noticed are these clamps. These are not designed for high pressure. They make high pressure clamps and they look like this. Now these weren't leaking, but we're definitely going to put on the right clamp. There's 60 pounds of pressure in these lines. You need the right clamps. I've definitely seen these fail before. First of all, we want to disconnect the negative side of the battery. And remember, these days you may find that battery in the trunk, and it may be covered up with all kinds of stuff. Now to pull off these clamps, they can be a little tricky at times. Now there's a lot of shops that won't even take the old fuel lines out. They'll just zip tie the new ones right on top of the old ones. It's a little sloppy. In a pinch, I can see doing it, but I prefer just pulling them out and doing it right. You don't want to have your fuel lines just flopping all over the place. Now when you replace these lines, you can get 2 different types of materials. There's steel gas line, which is very difficult to work with. On this job, we're going to be using steel, but there's a much better material to use. Both materials are safe. Nickel copper is so much easier to work with, and it will never rust out again. If you buy it online, you can get it as cheap as the auto parts store. We needed to get this job done today, so we used steel. Now, if you've got the time, you want to get this nickel copper. Now that I've got that out of the way, let's keep going. Any of the brake line that's rusty, you want to get it out of there. You want to drive with confidence. You don't want to have these things blow out. So if it looks questionable, get it out of there. Now, shields like this, I take them down and I don't put them back. They may have looked good on a computer when somebody was designing it. I've only seen them hold in moisture and make it worse. The rust is far worse under here. Sometimes you really have to study how these clips come apart. Typically, engineers don't work on this stuff, they just design it. I think all engineers should have to work on this stuff too. Now these plastic lines, we're just gonna cut them out of here. Now at the front of the car, we do have some good metal. So we'll use a pipe cutter and cut these off nice and clean. We're gonna attach our good steel to this good steel. This stuff's in pretty good shape. We'll just need to clean up the surface. Those black lines are brake lines and they're in good shape. While you're doing this, you want to look for anything else that could go wrong. A lot of these fittings still look good. These we can just clean up. And of course the lines we're going to connect to, we want to get these all scrubbed up. Now the next thing we need to do is shape these gas lines into what they were before. You use the old gas lines as templates for the new ones. And if you're going to use steel gas line, get ready for a fight. It's like wrestling rattlesnakes. Once you use copper nickel, you'll probably never want to use steel again. But there's times when you need to use steel, and it's good to know how to use it. Now when you've got your shape right, you're going to want to tape up both ends with tape. You don't want any dirt in your fuel line. To connect these 2 steel lines together, we're going to use compression fittings. Just make sure everything is nice and straight and clean. I snug them up and tighten them up at the end. And now that we've got all the rusty lines out of there and the new ones in, we'll give everything a good check over. Then we'll hook up the battery and crank it over. It'll take a few seconds to get the fuel in. Then we'll check everything out for leaks. In this case, everything looks good. So we're ready to pull this down and give it a test drive. No more leaky lines, that's a good day. So if you're looking to freshen up those fuel lines and get rid of those rusty problems before they become a situation, Hopefully some of these tips will help you out. Well, I really appreciate your time and thanks for watching.